Hey everyone, this is Miss Turner, and today we're going to talk about R and some different ways to elicit the R sound. So I tell a lot of people that R is the worst sound, but it's the best sound because it keeps me in business. It's difficult because you can't really conceptualize how to do R, how to produce that sound. If you are trying to teach a child to produce the B sound, you tell them to bounce their lips, buh, buh. Or even TH, which is a harder sound, you say bite your tongue. But R, you can't see it. You can't see it in your mouth, so it's really hard to teach kids. And honestly, I think that's one of the reasons it's so hard for kids to learn how to make that sound. So we're going to talk about R. There are two different types of R, two different ways to produce it, and just some really easy basics you can do at home to work on R with your kid. So the two different types are the bunched R and the Retroflex R. So the bunched R, you're bunching your tongue back like this. And to me, in my experience, that's the most common type of R. That's the one that I've seen adults and children use the most. So I made a fancy little tongue out of Play-Doh. And if you can see, it's kind of bunched. So you kind of pull from a flat position back. Okay? So that's the bunched R. Now the other one is called a Retroflex R, and it's where you pull your tongue back. I tell kids it's like flexing an arm. It looks like that. R. It is a little less natural in my opinion, but it's what some people do, and so it totally works. Another way I tell kids to do it is to make an L and scrape the top of their mouth. So like that. It's hard to get kids to produce these sounds. I tried to do a little bit of speech therapy with my husband earlier and get him to copy me, and he even had trouble. So don't get frustrated, it's hard. Takes sometimes years for kids to get this R sound. A couple of things that I do for kids to truly understand how to produce these sounds is one, Play-Doh, but as far as in their mouth, I will get a mirror and make sure that we're side by side and looking into a mirror. So you could do this in the bathroom if you have a hallway mirror, a long mirror, even a handheld mirror, which is what I use at school. And we both stand in front of it or sit in front of it, and we do it together. So sometimes if I'm feeling very brave, I put on a rubber glove and I push their little tongue back. So and then you can really feel what they're doing, because some kids, they'll just leave that tongue flat, and that's why they sound like at or a caw, because their tongue's just lax, hanging out. But if you can really feel it and feel them either pulling it back or bunching it, it really helps to physically teach them how to produce that sound. Another thing you can do are these fancy little flossers. You can use this. You could use a lollipop, is a lot more fun, but just put it in their mouth and push their tongue back. So is a good way to do it. So when you look at the hierarchy of speech sound development, we start with the single sound, and then we move up. So we move from sound to syllable to word. And I have a lot of parents say, well, I don't notice any difference when they're talking to me. Well, that's because we're still working either on the sound, syllable, or word level. And they may be doing fine there, but they're just not ready to move that into sentence and conversation. So one thing I like to do, and I start every speech therapy session with their target sound in a little chart like this, is we do a warm-up. And I even write it on my table with a dry erase marker. You can write it on your mirror with a dry erase marker. I'll let the kids write it. It makes them feel more involved. So we'll do this. We'll pull our tongue back. And just making sure those R sounds sound good and tight. So we don't want to hear oe, we, why, whoa, woo. There's sometimes where you what we call approximating, so it's where you will hear it sound almost like an R, but not quite, and it's definitely not a w sound anymore. So they may say oi instead of just way. And that's better than nothing, but we still want a good strong R. And then we go backwards. R, ire, or, Okay? So like I mentioned in the beginning, there are two different ways to produce R, which is the bunched and the retroflex, but there are also two different types of R. So you have pre-vocalic R, which is R before a vowel, like red. And then you have post-vocalic R, which is R after a vowel, like car, or even in the middle if it's influenced by a vowel, like arrow. I tell kids and parents to start with pre-vocalic, so R at the beginning of words like rat and rip. It just tends to develop before post-vocalic R. Not always. Every once in a while I'll get a kid with a post-vocalic R in place and still saying wat. But I would really hone in on that R at the beginning of words before we're working on R at the end of words. So I made some simple flashcards with R words. We have pre-vocalic R and then post-vocalic R flashcards. So first we're going to try this one. Rat. Rat. And when I'm teaching kids R, I try and make sure they know not to have their lips rounded for these beginning R words. So we don't want to go wat. Even though you could technically go rat. It's way easier to tell them to freeze their mouths in a smile and let their tongue do the work. So rat. Next we have red. Red. Rip. Rip. And obviously it doesn't look very natural right now because I'm going rip. But eventually, once they get a hang of it, it will be much more natural. Rod. Rod. And rug. Rug. So notice that like I said, my lips are frozen. They're not touching. My tongue is doing all of the work. Rug. All right. Next, we're going to move on to post-vocalic R, so that R at the end of words. And I just chose very simple CVC words for that. Mostly CVC words for that. So first we have car. K-R. And like I said earlier, I wouldn't even touch R at the end of words until you've really perfected R at the beginning of words. So again, it's car. K-R. Same thing that we did earlier with the pre-vocalic R. We don't want to round our lips. We can teach the kids to just freeze their lips and let their tongue do the work. So her. And I like to use a lot of visual cues. So just a lot of times I'll tell them to pull their tongue back. Her. Fire. Fire. Door. Door. OR is notorious for being very hard for kids because for this one you actually do want to round your lips. Door. Maybe that's the last R sound you ever work on, and that's okay. And then last we have fur. Fur. All right. So those are just some basic flashcards that I have. Another thing that I love to do with kids and that is so easy to do at home is just find objects that have R in the word. And so I found objects that begin with R because that's easy. Okay. So first we have rock. Rock. Or freeze your mouth. Rock. Next we have a rattle. One thing you can do, you could put all of this in a bag and you could pull them out. You could describe the thing, whatever the thing is, to your kid, your student, and then they have to say it. So I'm thinking of something that a baby likes. They like to shake it, and they would say rattle. Next I have a remote. I also have a record, and this is a KISS record that also says rock and roll. Lots of R's there. And then last we have a red ukulele. So those are just some R basics, some simple ways to produce R, kind of the mechanics of how R works, and some ways you can practice R at home. So I hope this was helpful. Y'all have a good day.